I went to Northview in Sylvania, Ohio, and I got to try the wheel there first and kind of just fell in love with clay and how responsive it was to my hands and have followed it ever since.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You are tuned in to the Creative Frequency. Come with us as we explore the creative process with artists from all areas of the creative spectrum. The Creative Frequency starts now. Hi, it's Kent Tarbox here. I'd like to welcome you back to the Creative Frequency, coming at you from Studio 20 in the Jones Building in Findlay, Ohio. If you're new to the channel, we talk about creativity. We talk to makers, artists, creators, roadblocks, anything that gets in their way, anything they do to get through their day. If you're returning, you know how it works. You know how I am. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. And I'm going to ask our guest to introduce herself.
Hi there. My name's Kayla Kirk. I am a potter in Toledo, Ohio, who owns Charm Ceramics, a pottery studio in downtown Toledo.
Okay, and how long have you owned the studio?
The studio's been almost about 2 years now.
And how's that going for you?
The studio's going really well.
Great.
Classes have been really popular. Yeah. The Glass City was ready for a little bit more mud, which was exciting.
Okay. I like that mud.
Yeah, exactly.
When, we're going to jump right into it here. When did you discover that you wanted to create? And was it ceramics? Is it pottery, ceramics, mud?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. When did that hit you?
I think I've always been drawn to creating. One of my earliest memories is drawing, and when I was younger, I had a really strong drawing practice. As I got older, I kind of lost that drawing practice and did find myself gravitating towards more 3D mediums like clay and sculpture. So, I got introduced to pottery in high school. I went to Northview in Sylvania, Ohio, and I got to try the wheel there first and kind of just fell in love with clay and how responsive it was to my hands and have followed it ever since.
Okay. You did the similar stories it was when you sat down in that wheel, there was a connection. You felt
Hmm.
something. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to, I want to make sure people get across and understand. I had the same thing with a camera. First time I'm like, wow, this just feels right. And I
Hmm.
know people do that when they pick up a guitar or they hear the piano or they act for the first time. Um, so high school, you did this. Did you do any formal education anywhere? Any university?
Yeah, I went to the University of Toledo,
Okay.
and there I studied sculpture and got a BFA in sculpture. I also studied art history and received a Bachelor's of Arts in Art Museum Practices.
Okay. Your experience at the university, and I've had several creatives on in the past that it was mixed. Some felt that their creativity was stifled or because they were doing things for a grade, that it was restrictive. And others felt that they gained so much knowledge in that part of the formal education. Where do you come down on that?
Um, I really enjoyed my time at university. The University of Toledo's art program was structured in a way that let me explore a lot of different mediums. So I wasn't really formally trained in pottery or ceramics. I got to try woodworking, metal casting, uh, photography, did a lot of work with Photoshop and printing photographs off on different mediums. So I really enjoyed the freedom to explore.
Mhm.
Eventually, I found my way back to pottery. But I think I really appreciated the ability to explore different avenues to see ideas through. I didn't feel stifled at all in my experience there.
That's good. That's good. Was there one instructor or someone that really stood out that maybe you'd like to give them a quick shout out or?
Yeah, absolutely. The first person that comes to mind is Brian Carpenter. He's always been in my corner, and I appreciate how he's helped me grow as an artist.
Okay. Brian, you're a friend of the show now. When you approach what we call creativity, how do you define that? How would you define it in your words?
Tough question. How would I define creativity? I think I would define creativity as an experience in almost that could take many forms where you enter a flow state.
Okay.
So
Is
whether that be cooking, drawing, dancing, singing, the potter's wheel, taking photographs, I think if you reach a point where you're not over analyzing or overthinking and you can just enter a flow state into something, I think that is creativity.
I like that. Have you had a moment in your life where you felt like, and you appear somewhat young, so in your young life as opposed to mine, where you felt you're at your creative peak and what that
Mm.
meant to you, how you got there?
Hmm. Um, my hope is that my creative peak is still coming,
Okay.
that I haven't reached the precipice of it yet. But I think uh, one turning point in my career as an artist that was really pivotal was working as a production potter in a pottery in downtown Detroit. That really was a turning point for me and opened up a world of possibilities.
Okay. I something popped into my head when you said you haven't reached the precipice. Do we ever? Do we? Is it because I have changed with age?
Mhm.
I'm not the same. I mean, my core values and my core self are probably the same, but some of the things I am at 64, I wasn't at 34 or
Mhm.
24. And I wonder, is there a peak, or do we just find different ways for creativity to manifest itself in us?
I think hopefully the goal is to always find different ways for creativity to manifest itself inside of us, and grow and change with us in ways we can't even fathom from 34 to 64.
Right.
Um, my hope is that I surprise myself as my career goes on. And one thing I love about being an artist and a potter is that I feel like a forever student. I feel like there's always more to learn and dive down deeper into the rabbit hole of making work.
I agree. I somewhat similar path, did a lot of photography in high school. Uh, got out, went to Navy, got out, married, college, kids, family, got away from it. Daughter wanted to get back into it. I got into it with her and realized, hey, I can do this. But it's probably only been the last 5 or 6 years where I've really started to really explore being creative. Mine was being a contract photojournalist. It's work.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of room for creativity, and uh, this has given me an opportunity, and this show, this podcast, is part of that creativity manifesting itself. When you're not being, let's call it creative, and if that's even possible, what's your what's your distraction, or maybe what's your guilty pleasure that's not creating?
Oh man, what is my guilty pleasure that's not creating? Honestly, nowadays in the depths of winter, just sitting
Yeah,
on the couch.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Trying to stay warm in any way I can.
Yeah.
Um, but outside of the studio, I tried to find little things to dive into. Like lately, my newest obsession has been going to hot yoga 3 times a week. And
Okay.
sometimes that enters a flow state where I feel like from the different yoga poses, it is some creativity happening. Um, and looking forward to the future, I'm really excited to start a garden this year. So another little creative avenue, guilty pleasures outside of the studio.
So I think you're one of the first maybe creatives that are running a studio, which is the equivalent of running a business. And that comes with very non-creative activities. You have bills to pay, you have rent, you have all these different things. Do you find some of that can be prohibitive? Do you have to compartmentalize that on some days when you walk in and say, okay, today I'm not Kayla business owner, today I'm Kayla ceramicist?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I would say um, the task I get to do the least as a business owner is creating. It's a lot of different other hats that I wear. So it's a rare treat to be able to get onto the wheel and sit down and produce some work. So I'm still working on finding the balance of being able to complete all the tasks that need to be completed, and feed my soul through my work as well.
Right.
Um, Lately my motto has been, uh, I didn't become an artist to do blank. Like, as a business owner, I just hired a bookkeeper. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Um, I didn't become an artist to figure out how to do the books, you know? So when I can take a hat off and hire someone else to wear it, I celebrate a little bit, knowing that that's going to equal more time at the potter's wheel.
Right. I was looking at the questionnaire that I sent out. I don't see Excel Pro on here anywhere, so I fully understand that. Right. I am,
Yeah,
and I've
absolutely.
had a corporate gig. I'm a regional IT manager, and
Mm,
I'm retiring from that in April. And so you can take all that corporate stuff, and yeah, I'm done with that. Um, at least for now, and maybe probably moving forward. Um,
good for you.
when you look for inspiration, um, where do you find it, or do you have a practice or something, or does it just happen?
Mm-hmm. Um, Lately I've been really inspired by nature and watching the seasons change and shift. One thing that's been drawing a lot of attention for me lately is water and the way that water over time erodes things away, draws canals and avenues and things, as well as nourishes and builds up. So I'm exploring a lot of themes of water in my work, especially with the idea that I make vessels, things that can hold liquids and water, and just sort of the idea of like does what is a vessel meant to hold. So I find a lot of inspiration through nature. I also find a lot of inspiration through exploring the human psyche and the interconnections of that with nature, especially the crossover from vessels themselves, thinking of the vessel as like an allegory for the body. If we imagine the body as a vessel and all the things we hold as individuals, and what it looks like when we're protecting those things or not, or letting them leak out of us. So there's inspiration from a few different areas.
Speaking of vessels, and I wrote this down because I specifically wanted to ask. I was looking at your webpage, and you are standing. There's a photo of you there next to a wheel with, and I'm going to call it a vessel. That I was wondering what I'd call this. It looks to be almost as large as you.
Yeah,
Do you know the photo I'm referring to?
I do.
Okay, talk about that. Tell me about that vessel.
Yeah. Yeah, so that vase that I made, that vessel, ended up being about, gosh, 4.5 feet tall. I got to make that in Vermont. I traveled to Vermont to study under Stephen Proctor. He's a potter living and working in Brattleboro, Vermont, and I took a workshop with him on how to make large scale vessels like that. So that vase was made over the course of several days, using two different potter's wheels. I would throw sections, measure out sections, and throw probably 10 to 20 pounds of clay per section. and then assemble them on that second wheel where that vase ended up being. And that was a really fun, exciting project to do. Not only did I get to learn a new way of making, but I got to meet a lot of different potters from all over the country.
Okay. For those of you that are listening and watching, there'll be references to the social media and the website, and I encourage you to go out and look at this picture and see Kayla. It's very impressive, and I don't and I'm not, I don't want to get into a lot of technical,
Mhm.
but how big is a kiln that you fire
Mm,
that in? Is it like a walk-in kiln? Because I've seen the small ones. We have a
mhm.
pottery studio here at Findlay Art League, and they open the top and they set their things in. I take it this is like a walk-in freezer-sized kiln?
Yeah, absolutely. So they do make kilns in different sizes. The small ones too, ones you and all your friends could fit inside. So at that particular studio, I don't know the exact dimensions, but Stephen Proctor built a kiln himself to handle that scale of work that he was creating.
Is is this a scale that you like to work in, or is it just you had an opportunity to create? Have you created more on that scale?
I have not created more that large, no, but I do enjoy making larger vases. Typically only 2-part vases. They end up being about 2 feet in size as opposed to 4.5 feet.
Okay.
um, but I enjoy working on a larger scale. That it challenges me to stay focused in the moment, where smaller cups and mugs tend to feel almost like muscle memory at this point.
Okay. Is it fair to say that, you said you were a production potter, that I could see that the cups almost become, no disrespect to anybody making cups, like just production line, just
Oh,
crank,
yeah,
crank, crank,
absolutely.
crank. Yeah,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I've been impressed. I've been to, Souter Village, and I've been to, different places where they're throwing, and like up at Souter, the guys back, they're just cranking out, trays of these things. Now I'm terribly impressed how uniform they all are.
Mhm.
Okay. That just blows my mind that they can do that. So I appreciate what you're saying here. I just, folks, I'm telling you, you got to go out and look at this picture. I'm impressed. Um,
Oh, well,
I thought it
thank
was,
you.
I thought it was really cool. I'm like, I don't know if I ever, and okay, so where did that end up and what is it being used for?
I actually got to destroy it. It was just for the process of creating and learning. So,
Really?
yep, I chose not to keep it, and I really enjoyed its ephemeral nature. It felt really good to be able to create something and then be like, "Nope, I'm taking it out of the world. It doesn't exist."
How much time did you invest in this?
Um, the workshop was a 3-day workshop, so we were there probably 8 hours a day.
Okay. You know, that's really interesting because there's a similar practice. I don't know if you're familiar with the Tibetan monks when they do a sand mandala. And,
Yes, yeah.
they'll create and create, and we've hosted the monks here several times, and, some friends of mine here in Findlay are very, very close to, matter of fact, they know the Dalai Lama, which I thought was really cool. And, at the end of this mandala practice, which goes on for a day or 2, they destroy it. And they take it out, and they send people home with the sands, and there's a ceremony and stuff. And it's hard at first, but you understand, and I understand what you're saying there. That was quite interesting. I don't know, do a lot of people just you might destroy your work if you're upset with it and say that, but that's really interesting. I thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, pottery's taught me a lot more than how to make things out of clay. One of those things being the art of letting go and the importance of impermanence.
There it is, folks. Everything we make, right? I love that. I can't. I'm still stunned that this very large vessel, and you destroy. How did you destroy it?
We got to cut it up. So the
Okay.
clay gets recycled and it gets made into new pots. So
Oh,
new students come in and make new pots, or the artist at the studio himself gets to reuse the clay and make something out of it.
okay. I've learned
So
something.
it lives on.
It
It lives
does.
on in
It
other
does.
pieces.
That's really interesting. I love that concept. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
I guess one of the things we're talking about is how great it is being creative. What are the roadblocks? Have you hit some roadblocks? What stops you, or what do you struggle with sometimes?
I think my main struggle for, gosh, probably the last 5 years or so has been not thinking that every piece I have to make has to be sold. Letting myself make something just for the joy of making it. As an artist who's turned their practice into their career, especially now that I own my own business, it's hard
Uh-huh.
not to think about um, numbers and
Right.
time investment and thinking like, oh, if I am having fun exploring this new avenue, I have to find a way to make money off of
Right.
it somehow.
Right.
So that's been a big roadblock lately, is just allowing myself to create for the sake of creating.
Right. Yeah, because there are things like rent and food and things that those seem to be important essentials in life.
So I've heard, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I need to do a little more of the starving artist thing. I could probably drop a few. Um,
I can't recommend it. I can't recommend it.
yes, it's okay. And it's funny because I've had an opportunity to monetize my photography through photojournalism, but
Mhm.
not necessarily through a creative aspect. And mine wasn't necessarily my creative journey isn't maybe about monetizing it, but I'm not allergic to money. Um, and I understand and I applaud anyone that you're taking on two things that you've taken a hobby, quote, and I don't mean it like that, a passion,
Mhm.
and you want to make that your career. And you want to do so by running a business. And I think that's an extremely hard challenge for creative people because I don't think people understand how difficult it is to put your stuff out there. Um, Now you say you're having sales. Do you have a target audience? Do you have a target demographic that you like to present to?
Mm-hmm. When I make work that I feel joy making. And I do find that a lot of people who enjoy the work that I'm making end up enjoying the work seem to be women aged 25 to 45, seem to resonate with a lot of the functional pottery that I make. But I'm not really thinking of a specific demographic when I'm making functional work. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't find I'm thinking about a specific demographic about sculptural work either. I think when I make sculptures, I'm really investigating a question or exploring an emotion, and letting the piece become what it becomes from there.
Okay.
Not really having an audience in mind, which is maybe not the best route to take, but an honest one.
Right. No, I appreciate the honesty. Do you do commission? Do you do commission work?
I do commission work. And typically lately it's been a lot of like mug clubs for bars or cafes, things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
They we run into sometimes and this may hit you hard and or you may just be like, nope, imposter syndrome. Do you ever wake up, go into the studio and go, yeah, no, I'm not, I can't, what am I doing? I can't do this. Does that ever happen to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially when I had my first studio 6 years ago in the basement of my house. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. And I was like, okay, I guess we're faking it till we make it. I find mostly I have my most imposter syndrome doing certain business-oriented tasks like customer correspondence and figuring out rules for the studio, and then having to enforce those rules is difficult. But
I'm gonna have to ask about the rules, but we'll get to that. Yeah.
yeah. A majority of like the imposter syndrome when it comes to creating is not necessarily something I try to give a lot of energy to, because for me it kind of just so much is zapping the life out of making art anyways, whether it be having to pay rent or bills and thinking about all that stuff. I try not to give that little voice in my head any more power than the rest of the world already gives it.
That's fair. That now I think when I first contacted you, was I contacted by your gallery manager?
Yeah, so at the studio where my business is, it's like a multi-artist studio space. So there's a glass blowing studio as well within the same building space. So we share a gallery, and the gallery does have a business manager, Catherine.
Catherine, that's it. And
Ryan
yeah.
Thompson, glass blower at Huron Street Studios.
Yes. Do you look at his work sometimes and take inspiration? Does he look at yours and take inspiration?
Absolutely. I mean, I can speak for the fact that I've looked at his work and have found inspiration for sure. He's a highly skilled maker and has been doing it for a long time, and I can really appreciate the level to detail and technical ability that he exudes in his craft, and I have definitely grown my skill and technical ability trying to emulate that.
What are the rules of your studio?
Um, I get a lot of customer inquiries about specific offerings, and mostly just trying to guard my time in the studio space, and feeling mean when I say, no, I can't unfortunately offer extra time outside of class or X, Y, and Z, and just trying to not feel like I'm the biggest jerk in the world for that.
It's hard to say no.
It is.
Because we all feel, I think, especially in the creative space, when you're, in your case, this is your life, this is your business, this is how you pay your bills. Saying no is maybe saying no to money or possibly, but there's only so much of you, and you have to be directed. I appreciate that. When your classes, when they come in, are we talking high school kids, people off the street, people just interested in this? How do you sit someone down who's never done this and they say, show me?
Yeah. A majority of people who walk into the studio for wheel throwing classes have never touched clay in their life. I would say it's probably about 95% of people who come in who have absolutely zero experience with clay. We go over everything together and we do everything step by step. It's a lot in the beginning setting up expectations, especially with all the content that's online nowadays.
Sure.
People see people doing a creative task and think, oh, that looks easy. I can do that and make a 4.5 foot tall vase on my first wheel throwing class.
Sure.
So a lot of it is
on YouTube.
Exactly.
Right.
So a lot of it is setting realistic expectations, knowing that you got to be bad at something before you can be good. But we do our best at Charm Ceramics to help everyone have a really positive first experience wheel throwing.
When you let's talk about Charm Ceramics for a minute. Do you do outreach into, and this is your chance to plug your business, plug it all you want. Do you do outreach into like schools and that different organizations, or do people just mainly come to you?
Mainly people come to the studio. The majority of the outreach that Charm Ceramics does in the community is we partner with other local businesses like bars and cafes. And this summer we'll be partnering with Lucky Lavender Farms in July to offer different hand building experiences around town. So again, beginner friendly workshops that last about 2 hours where people can come make a mug. We're scheming up new items for hand building experiences this year too. So we're excited to offer some new stuff.
When you're doing a class, is there a moment where you're looking around and you just see it click with people? And when you do, how does that make you feel?
Oh my God, there's probably no better feeling in the entire world. It feels really good. I often have the like, oh gosh, I can't believe this is my life moment. Sometimes I get it standing alone in the studio, just looking around, but most often I get it when everyone's elbows deep into making and connecting with their friends or with new friends, and having a good time creating something out of, a material they've never created before. It feels really, really gratifying to share my love of clay with other people.
I'm hearing an undertone of community,
Mhm.
and I'm going to assume that you foster that when people walk into your studio, um, which I think is a great thing. Now, how much of you as a counselor that says, "It's okay, you're gonna get better," does that come into play?
Oh my gosh, all the time. Yeah, I am the cheerleader and the jester to make sure that people have a good experience because pottery is hard. And honestly, it would be way, way harder if I were mean to.
Right.
So I try to, encourage people and uplift them. Sometimes people want a little tough love, and I try to give that to them too when I can read the room that way. But community is really important. I think one thing that we're lacking in this modern society is like the idea of third spaces, a place
Mhm,
where people can go that's not work or home, and and connect with other people
mhm.
outside of those areas and have a good experience. And so um, everyone that walks in the doors in Charm Ceramic is welcomed, and it's a safe space for everyone to experience the joy of clay.
I won't ask you for a name or anything. Do you have a do you have a star pupil that took this further than just a class?
There are a few people that come to mind that, yeah, it's been really exciting to see them grow outside of the classroom
Uh-huh.
and get the equipment necessary in their own home to experience clay there and keep their education going.
So when you if you communicate with these people, do you feel a sense of mentorship with them? Um, and because obviously you have experience, and I didn't ask, and I should have asked. You've been in this how long now? How many years have you been doing ceramics? And
Um, well, I got to try it in high school and it's been a part of my life ever since, but professionally, I've been a potter for this year will be 7 years.
okay,
Um, but yeah, so it's always been there.
so some experience.
Yeah, just a little. But yeah,
Who
I do feel a sense of mentorship in regards to those students. Also just so much gratitude for them letting me be a part of their journey
right?
in this medium.
Who do you in the pottery ceramic world? Who do you look at, and who do you talk to for mentorship? Or
Mhm.
sometimes we say we just steal from each other. That we're all creatives, but we all borrow. On a very nice level. But I see something and be like, well, I'm inspired by that. Do you have that in your life, in your creative life?
Yeah, there are a lot of close friends from my time living and working in Detroit that I reach out to in regards to um, ideas, whether it's for the business or for my own personal work, and having them be a sounding board for those sorts of things. But there are also some career potters who I don't know personally, who I look up to their work and their level of craft and ability, for sure. Absolutely.
I know I won't delve into too much but the glass.
Hmm.
And I talked to Ian Dawson. I don't know if you know Ian or not.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on this show. And I've said the same thing. I said, when I watch people work with glass, my anxiety level is through the roof because it's super hot. They use newspaper, you know the whole drill,
Yeah.
right? But I lived in Seattle and I looked at Chihuly and I'm like, I don't know anything about glass at the time, but I love his work,
Hmm.
and you can just take even inspiration from people outside your medium, I think.
Hmm.
You can appreciate the creativity and the vision that goes into the work. Now, you talked about the wheel, but you talk about structural.
Hmm.
Talk about that for a minute. What is that as opposed to something on a wheel?
Yeah. So, um, making sculptural work is me just hand sculpting off of a wheel, just at a table or something. And I make a lot of different forms. Lately, I've been enamored with making barbed wire pieces. And in the past, something that's been in my making practice for a while is making pieces of notebook paper out of porcelain. And so I'm just making sculptural pieces using hand building techniques like slab rollers, coil rolling, or just sculpting by hand and creating pieces that way off of the potter's wheel.
Is there Do you lean more towards the wheel or the sculpture?
Wonderful, wonderful question.
Thank
I
you.
feel like it's two different artists fighting inside me every day of what I want to do. Um, in my early career, I would definitely have considered myself a sculptor, but quickly after graduating college, I learned that people would rather buy a mug than they would buy a sculpture. And as someone who was interested in feeding themselves through their art, I kind of really dived into functional pottery, learning the potter's wheel, what makes a good functional cup, mug, vase, bowl. And so I lean into the wheel because it feels like second nature now. I can sit down at a potter's wheel and like you saw at Sutter's Village, just
Mhm.
make identical cups, mugs, bowls, whatever, and it feels, yeah, like second nature. Like I can just click into it. But when I want to create something that helps me, work through an emotion or answer a question or even just ponder a question a little bit deeper, I gravitate towards sculpture. And there have been some pieces in the past where I combine the two, with like throwing a vase, usually a large scale vase, like those 2-foot ones I mentioned earlier, and then adding some hand sculpted elements to them, like spikes or thorns, or water droplets, sculpted water droplets. So, and sometimes I combine that stuff in my functional work as well. I make these mugs. I call them charm mugs. They have little hand sculpted charm danglies that hang off of them, and they make a really lovely sound when you shake the mug, and they click and clack around. And so to have a convoluted answer to your simple
No,
question,
no.
it's kind of both, and sometimes it's one or sometimes it's the other.
What's on your wheel playlist?
Oh man, gosh. Depends on the mood I'm in, really. Um, Sometimes it's a lot of house music, really. House
Okay.
music quiets my brain in a way where there's like this really driving beat to something. It quiets my brain, the chitter chatter of the day, and it goes away. And so I like that for working, whether it's like Beyonce's Renaissance album or Tame Impala's Dracula album. Sometimes it's Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh,
Yeah. What else? What else? Sometimes it's rap. I mean, I'm all over the place, really.
I have had the pleasure, and I have a T-shirt, and it said, "Yes, I'm old, but I've seen Pink Floyd live on stage."
What I would
I've
give to have had that experience.
I've seen them 3 times. I
Whoa,
saw them in Cleveland,
incredible.
the Animals tour. I saw the Wall in Los Angeles, and then Pulse in Columbus.
Oh my goodness.
We won't get into some of the background of the earlier two, but it was a great experience. Dark Side of the Moon is, the what 5 albums would you have on a desert island if you were stranded? Okay, Dark Side of the Moon, number 1.
Yeah, that's
I've
in mine
listened to
too.
it. Yeah, I I'm 64 years old. I think I discovered Dark Side when I was 14, 15 in headphones, back in the
Hmm.
70s. And tonight when I go home, I might kick back in my chair, put my headphones on, and I'm going to listen to Dark Side. I get it. I love that. What a great answer.
Yeah, that album is so it like teleports you to a different place. The different music, like it just takes you to a different realm of time. Um, I have a controversial opinion about that album.
Okay.
I think personally that after the song Us and Them, I
Uh-huh.
think the album could have ended there. Like, because after Us and Them, it's Brain Damage and what else is there? Eclipse or something? I
Yeah,
like
still,
Eclipse, but I think Us and Them is just such a beautiful song with
it is.
that would it's could have like a nice cap on that album. But I'm not the artist, so I appreciate the full the full itinerary of it.
Did you, we did the album timed up for the Eclipse.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, there
wow,
was,
that would have
they,
been incredible.
yeah, they gave you, there was a time frame and you had to start it at like 2:22 p.m. And so my son and I were, and my wife was there. She was with her mom, and my son and I were sitting in the driveway with our lawn chairs, and our little Eclipse glasses and our Bluetooth speaker. And we hit it right on time because when the eclipse hit, it said the end of eclipse, and it just timed up perfect. And it was a spiritual moment. It really was. And it was so cool. I'll never get to do
Yeah.
that again. But
Talk
yeah, we could.
about yeah.
Yeah, we talk Dark Side of the Moon forever. I'm not a big Beyonce person, but
Fair enough.
but
Fair
I
enough.
love no, I love I love your. That's I had to ask what your playlist was because I have to assume now. Is there always a playlist, or is there times when you just need to be in your own head and you don't need the 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 tunes?
I love having music, but there are times where I prefer silence. Absolutely. I love when it's quiet in the studio, which is such a rare treat. Especially when I can click into a flow state of creating
Mm-hmm.
and not have my brain be loud too. When it's quiet outside and inside, that's just like a slice of heaven.
I have a ongoing project, and it's affectionately called Roadkill, and everybody looks at me like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I get in my truck and I drive around country roads and I photograph all these old, dilapidated buildings and structures and things. I find beauty in decay. I call it roadkill because I don't get out of my truck. I just roll the window down, I take the picture with the camera, and we move on. And part of that is so that we drive by these structures all the time. We're not even cognizant of them. We don't even know they're out there. Um, and this all came out of a creative thing where I was ready to walk away from the photojournalism gig. And my wife, who's smarter than I, said, shoot for yourself, do something creative for yourself. So it started out that way, and it was a little bit of therapy, but I get out there, I throw on Animals, Pink Floyd, I drive around. It's therapy. It's my way of getting out of the world. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. But I'm like you. I'm a music person, and I like to hear that. That's great. Oh man, you hit me with Pink Floyd. Yes, that's great.
Kindred spirits.
Kindred spirits. And what's interesting about that, and let's hit that for a minute too. There's probably 40 years separating us in age, but that album has meaning to you, and it has meaning to me. And I think when you can find something in life that's almost that pure, and art does that. You work. I will transition back to the pottery and the ceramic. You work in a medium. We've been making pots since people needed to carry something, which has been, I don't know what, 4, 5, 6,000, however many years ago. Somebody said, "Wow, if I do this, I can carry more." Does that ever hit your consciousness when you think that you're really working on something that is ancient, but it still has relevance today? How do you feel about that?
I feel honored to be a part of this craft's lineage. I am lucky to be able to be doing something that connects humans over millennia. I think it's really incredible that every culture on Earth figured out how to make pottery. Before we were even communicating with each other, we all developed different ways to accomplish the same goal. And I think there's something really magical, spiritual about making something out of clay. I think it's almost intrinsic to human nature to dig into the earth and want to create from what you find. I think that permeates into a lot of different practices. But it feels like a really big honor.
I can't follow that up, folks. I mean, that's where it's at. Yeah, because in photography, I'm working in a realm of 100 and some years. But pottery's been there. I mean, every culture, everywhere, every museum I've been to, everywhere you go, there's a vase or a pot or a vessel. There's something, and it was just designed. And I find it interesting how we can take something functional and also respect it and recognize it as a piece of art. And I know sometimes there's conversation about what's crafted, what's art. I'm not going to get into that. Cause it's all art to me. And if it is craft, great. It serves a function. We all have a mug. Mine just happens to be stainless steel now, but everybody has a mug. And they've had one forever. Okay. We are coming up on about the 50-minute mark, and I don't want to keep you forever here. I want to thank you for sharing your insight, sharing yourself with us. I'm going to do a couple shout outs here for something, and then I have one final question for you. But folks, so this is Kayla. Check out Charm Ceramics. They're on the second floor, North Huron Street in Toledo, Ohio. Website is charmceramics.com. And to see their work, she sent me a wonderful list here. They're doing Deep Roots at the Ann Arbor Arts Center. That goes on view March 13th, correct? To April 1st. Volumes of Influence, Toledo Ceramics at the Toledo Museum of Art and the University of Toledo, March 23rd through the 28th. And we've got a solo exhibition the fall of 2026 to be determined at the University of Toledo's CVA Gallery. So I encourage you to check it out. And folks, I'm a member of the Toledo Museum of Art too. What a wonderful institution and what a wonderful place. And congratulations on you for showing in there. I think that it's a beautiful institution, and I love seeing it.
Well, thank you. Honored to be able to show, and thank you so much.
I will be going. Yeah, we'll be going up there because I need a mug. I don't have enough mugs. I need a mug.
Can never have enough mugs.
No, I love the charmed mug. My wife loves tea. My wife drinks tea all the time. So I'm interested in my daughter, the charmed mug. We're going to talk about that. My final question for Kayla, is there something I didn't ask you or something you'd like to say before we go?
I don't feel like there's really been any questions unasked, I would just like to express my gratitude to the community who supported me thus far, all the mentors I've had along the way. I wouldn't be the artist I am or the educator that I am without the influence of many, many people. And for that, I'm really grateful. And I'm grateful to the city of Toledo for really showing a lot of support for me as an artist and for Charm Ceramics as a business. And so I want to say thank you to that and encourage everyone to experience working with clay. There's really no better feeling than having some dirty hands and making something out of that. So you know where to find me should you want to come do it. So, but yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate your openness and your honesty and revealing yourself to the public out there. So folks, that's going to wrap up another edition here of the Creative Frequency out of Studio 20. I appreciate your time and look forward to talking to you all again. Kayla, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Creative Frequency. You know what to do. Like, follow, and subscribe. Then join us again for the next episode of the Creative Frequency.